Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be just putting out a quick video based on a blog post which I wrote on the 17th of February 2015 called Top 10 Tuesday. Top 10 book related problems I have, and this was part of like a Top 10 Tuesday feature. As far as I know, it's still continuing for bloggers who write about a lot of books, and they give themes to do every Tuesday, books I would save from a fire, books I'll probably never read, the most read authors, just like all sorts of fun stuff like that. And hopefully in future I will turn some more of those blog posts into videos. And so anyway, and also because 11 is my lucky number, I will be upping it to number 11, because you can never have too many lists in a top 10 list. And so number 1, I'll never have enough bookmarks. I do plan to do a future video showcasing my bookmark collection. I've been collecting a lot from the local library in the recent few months. They've been putting out some really cool free bookmarks on their tables, and unfortunately some of my favorite bookmarks, some really special ones, are still in storage 900 miles away, including one that's made of ransom notes. It's on a blue background. It's help, help, I can't breathe, the pages are heavy and it's dark and I can't move. So I'm sorry, it's not the exact text, but it's paraphrasing, please read more, it's gets lonely in here, and the pages don't move themselves, something like that. And unfortunately, I just almost 99% of my belongings are in storage 900 miles away. My brother was supposed to help me with shipping them down to me. Unfortunately, he's kind of been neglecting his real family in favor of his menage a trois. But anyway, that's a topic for a whole other thing. But do look forward to that future video about my bookmark collection of the ones I do currently have in my possession. Now, number 2, not enough time to finish or get to all those enticing library books, even with maximum renewals. It doesn't help matters that one of the local libraries, or at least at the time I wrote this when I was still living back home in New York, which I prefer out of all the local libraries due to its awesome upper level with peaceful carols, only loans for 3 weeks at one time, not 4 like the other libraries. And that was the Colony Library, which I was talking about if you guys are ever in the upstate New York capital region area. I do highly recommend checking out that library. It's just so many wonderful things about that. Maybe I can also do some future videos talking about my memories of the lovely libraries in upstate New York. And so anyway, I believe that the Gilderland Library, which became my second favorite library in the upstate New York region, it had I think 4 or 5 renewals you could have, but Colony only had 3 weeks at a time. Like I just mentioned, in the current library system, which I'm now in South Carolina, it only allows for 2 renewals, and they also do only 3 weeks at a time. Unfortunately, back home in New York, it would be 4 weeks at a time, and of course 2 weeks for new books and new media, and 1 week for DVDs and CDs and other stuff. And so anyway, number 3, not everything I want to read has been translated. I read an interview with Ignat Solzhenitsyn, who rather resembles his famous father, apart from not being a redhead, in which he said there aren't any immediate plans to translate the rest of his father's books into English. And if you guys didn't already know, if you've missed prior videos and blog posts raving about him, Alexander Isayevich Solzhenitsyn is my absolute favorite writer. He's not just my favorite writer, he's also one of my absolute number 1 heroes and one of my literary idols. One of the greatest regrets of my lifetime is that I never wrote him a letter, and all the many years our lifetimes overlapped, and I was a fan of his, to tell him just how very much he means to me. It's I can't even put it into words. He's Dante, more than just a favorite writer, just so much more. I can never really find adequate words to express it. And he helped to inspire me with my writing, get back on track with my Russophilia, and helped me decide to study Russian history and culture at university. And at one point for many years, I even wanted a PhD in Russian history with a focus on Gulag and the Great Terrorium. I'm such a lighthearted, pleasant person. And so anyway, because there aren't any immediate plans to translate the rest of Alexander Isayevich's books into English, this includes the second half of his massive Red Wheel saga. And those are 2 books, March 1917 and April 1917, but you can't find them in the original Russian online, and possibly maybe there might be some partial translations floating around, or I think maybe I saw a German translation or something like that. But unfortunately, there's just not enough of an audience anymore, as evidenced by the lackluster sales of November 1916 and the unexpurgated translation of The First Circle. Unfortunately, those are also some books which I have in storage. In the first book, there are 4 books in the Red Wheel saga. It's obviously, if you can't tell from the titles with dates in them, they're about World War I from the Russian perspective. And the first one was August of 1914. There was a really horrible original translation from the 70s by Michael Glenny, who, by the way, totally avoid this dude if you're looking to get into Russian literature. He didn't even translate it himself all the way through. He like kind of like split it up as an assignment among his college students. Like seriously, his other translations are just like really, really, really bad. But I do have the newer translation from, I believe it's by Harry Willits. He's translated a lot of Alexander Isayevich's books into English in the modern era, like kind of replacing the older ones which I first read, which were like originally published and translated in the 1960s and 1970s. But anyway, I should possibly do some future videos talking about like the Red Wheel books, which I have read. It's, you know, very, very difficult to get into them because they're just like, oh, so much heavy like history. And it's not just like a straight novel. And like, yeah, I can obviously live with an ensemble cast because I write them myself. It's not hard to follow along if you're used to reading and writing that. But a lot of times the narrative is just broken up by these like long research papers. Like that's not even a part of the actual story. And I realize I'm like totally getting off into the weeds and rambling, but you know, you can tell I really, really absolutely love Alexander Isayevich. I'm not just so passionate about him. Once I start talking about him, you know, I just can't stop. And so anyway, back to the list. Number 4, forgetting about library books until I have no more renewals. It's like, you know, if you have so many books out of the library, plus books you own yourself, and sometimes like you just can't get around to reading them all, even if you have like the maximum 4 or 5 renewals, if you live in a really like generous library system like Guilderland's library. Number 5, those times I forget about due dates and end up having to return them late and pay a small fine. And sometimes, unfortunately, you don't even get around to reading that book by the time you have to pay a fine already, or you weren't able to finish it in time. You know, that just like kind of sucks. Number 6, none of the local libraries having a book I really want to read. Now, I realize like this might have been worded confusingly, like saying, oh, I couldn't find a single book in any of the libraries I was interested in reading. I'm talking about like, oh, there's a book I saw online or like read about whatever that sounded really cool, and I'm like typing it into the search engine, like, and none of the local libraries have it at all, even for like, you know, interlibrary loan. And so like sometimes you just like have to like realize, oh, maybe I should like buy this online, but oh, maybe it's not available online either. It's like, you know, really expensive or out of print. But anyway, I'll get to those in some of the future topics. Number 7, out of print books only being available for unrealistically high prices, if you can even like find them, that is on eBay or in local used bookstores. But you know, sometimes it is like really, 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 really worth it, particularly if it's like a really like valuable, like special book or in really, really good condition. You can pass it on to grandchildren someday, or just like really interesting things about that. Maybe in future I can do a video about my love of antiquarian books and some of the antiquarian books I should like to add to my collection in future. Number 8, not having enough time to read all of a book I checked out for historical research. I've gotten at so many library books to research things for my writing. Like in this particular instance, I was talking about Journey Through a Dark Forest, which I published in, I believe, late 2018. I finished writing it in March of 2015, and the anniversary is like fast. I believe it actually is today. Yeah, the 19th. It's my 8th anniversary of like. No, I'm sorry. No, I didn't finish it on that day. I'm getting like totally confused. I believe it was like March 14th or 15th I finished it, and it was like on the 19th of March 2015 because I'd been like getting sick around the time I finished it. I got my 3rd earlobe piercings to celebrate finally finishing it, and because March 19th as 1944 is the day the Nazis occupied Hungary, so that's what I was, you know, like associating that day with. Like, so even like writers can get like confused and turned around about dates for their own books, even when they have like, you know, elephantine memories like I have. And so anyway, getting back to the number 8, I have gotten, you know, so many library books to research things for my writing, like D-Day, the Pacific Theater in World War II, Americans in concentration camps, which, by the way, that really, really did happen. Like, many people just don't realize this was a thing. Obviously, it wasn't like, you know, like thousands upon thousands of Americans getting like stuck in the like Nazi terror and ending up in the camps, but it was like more than just like a handful of people. Polio, and fashions of the various decades of the 20th century, only to not have time to read everything. They looked so tempting, but I only read or skimmed the relevant parts and put off reading the whole book for later, but I did still include them in my bibliographic like works cited on back matter file because, you know, I did like consult them. It wasn't like I didn't read them at all or didn't look at any of the pictures. Number 9, all the long unread books on my shelves. Now, unfortunately, although some of those included long unread books which are on storage 900 miles away, like I really, really hope someday, hopefully very, very soon within the year, I will finally have all those books back in my possession because I really, really miss them, and it's really makes me feel even like more depressed and stuck in this place I never really came to by choice, and like not have like 99% of my belongings with me. Like almost all these books you see behind me were only acquired after I was taken to this place. Number 10, not having an entire huge room for a library. Should I ever have a mansion, I'm so going to have a real library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves of the finest wood, luxurious carpets, comfy chairs, tables, artwork on the walls, a fireplace, and one of those trick shelves that reveals a secret room or at least another side with even more books. And yeah, I know I'm talking a big game, like, oh, I'm so proud of my working class proletarian roots, but sometimes my tastes are anything but, humbly proletarian. But, like, what bibliophile wouldn't dream about, like a huge, like, wonderful, lovely, like, luxurious, high class, fancy library like that at home? And I'm lucky number 11. I will never, even if I live to 120, please God, like, I just won't have enough lifetime to read all these books I'd like to read. Just like, even if I live to 120, I definitely will not be able to see every single silent film ever made, although my lifetime goal for silent films is 5,000. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy this, like, fairly short, rather impromptu video. I'm just taking a break from my doing almost all of my work in these past few weeks. In the coming weeks, like in the remainder of March and through April, are writing and researching my blogging for A to Z April post. My theme this year is Persian/Iranian history for pretty obvious reasons. Like, I'm standing in solidarity with the people of Iran, and I just, like, want to celebrate their wonderful, rich, proud, like, history and culture through my blog posts. And I'm doing Persian names for my secondary blog. I still have to start doing that because I'm, like, focusing on the longest, like, the research heavy ones for my main blog. And please, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hitting the notifications bell, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks. Bye.